What's going on, everyone? Coach Jason here.
Coach Patrick.
And we are back with another episode of the Mach 1 method.
Boom. Oh, yeah. Premature bicep flex.
Because we're talking about today what results actually look like in your first 6 to 12 months of training, which, let's see another flex for the camera. That's pretty much it. Patrick's only been training for 6 months, and you can look like that.
6 or 7.
6 or 7 months.
Yeah. Give or take. But with that
all
being
seriousness.
Said, all seriousness, locked in. 6 to 12 months is a reasonable amount of time to, especially as a beginner, see quite a bit of progress. You'll probably see the most amount of progress from the beginning of your career in the first 12 months compared to the 12 months for the rest of your career in terms of efficiency and timeline. So let's see what we can get into on that topic of what are the different goals that we can see in 6 months.
Right. I think, it's both the best opportunity to make progress because newbie gains, but it's also a time period where, depending on what your goals are and what walk of life you're in, you don't want to have unrealistic expectations of what is to come. And I think it's really important to taper your expectations off of what's not only realistic, but what's sustainable. Because I think just kind of hitting it right off the bat with like a typical fitness and health goal, which is like weight loss, a lot of people have unrealistic expectations of what's possible. They strive for that. They either have shortcomings to it and then a negative experience of like getting back into it, or they are able to reach something that's unrealistic, but it's now even harder to sustain that. And maybe your first 6 months were successful, but your next 6 months you yo-yo back, and maybe even, hopefully not, but it's unfortunately way too common to revert even worse to what your starting point was. So we want to make sure that your first 6 to 12 months of gains are realistic but sustainable.
And I think if we go through the different types of fitness, we can put a timeline on that.
Right.
So if we think strength, we'll look at endurance.
Yep.
We'll look at mobility, flexibility. We'll kind of put those together for the sake of conversation. And we'll talk about like body composition and aesthetics.
Yeah.
So I think if we can go through those 4, we can estimate what that actually looks like in that time frame, right? First and foremost, let's say flexibility and mobility is probably the quickest area to see results. Foam rolling, soft tissue work, flexibility, like you can see that in a few minutes in terms of increased range of motion, increased capability to get in different positions, and then the resiliency of practicing that skill and range of motion over 6 to 12 months. You're going to be able to own those positions. You're going to have less pain, aches. You're going to be able to, go into new territories that were restrictive. You're going to have better body awareness and control.
Posture.
So posture is going to be huge. You're going to have less shifting and imbalances. Like all of these things are definitely realistic within the first 6 to 12 months.
Yep. It's hard to quantify something like flexibility, but I think just overall, like on a feedback, like, in terms of like a little bit or a lot of bit better, you're probably going to feel a lot of bit better
across the board,
like in the first 6 months. And then after that, I would say flexibility, mobility. The more you access, the harder it is to access more. So there's a pretty steep drop off in terms of
like a bell-shaped curve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like parabolic in that sense.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good thing because it means if you are someone that is like new to the gym and you feel really stiff, your posture is really not that great, just know that it's realistic to see some pretty dramatic gains in your first 6 months.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you're looking for more than just the scale to tell you something's working, flexibility and mobility is one of the best things to look at because you'll see drastic changes rapidly and realistically within that 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Following that, let's go into like endurance. I think in 6 to 12 months, endurance is going to be a product of your training stimulus, whether you're doing med ball slams over there in the background, or or you're getting into a running program, you're doing higher rep scheme strength training. Any of those variations can I started picking up the med ball again. Any of those variations can lead to increased endurance, stamina, work capacity, and just like foundational like fitness related goals, whether that's in the gym or you notice that you can go work manual labor in the yard without as
Walking
much
up the
fatigue.
stairs.
Walking up the stairs is huge. Carrying in your groceries, like little things like that become so much easier in the day-to-day life. Like all your ADLs, like active daily living things, whatever, activities of daily living, those all become easier because you have better work capacity, you have better endurance, you're able to recover more efficiently.
I think the great part about, noticing just a day-to-day endurance gain is it doesn't necessarily come from one specific type of training. Like pretty much across the board, like if you're really, we're talking about someone who's starting from like baseline 0. Like if you're that person, if you just start going to the gym consistently 2 days a week, you're going to notice progress in that department quickly.
Absolutely.
Honestly, no matter with what kind of training you're doing, whether it's walking, it could be yoga, it could be strength training, it could be cardio training, like pretty much everything is going to affect your baseline work capacity and endurance level positively. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's like a really easy, low-hanging fruit to expect to get better in those first 6 months.
And then kind of tying in the strength aspect of it, like going up the stairs, every step you take becomes a little less effort. You have relative strength based on your ADLs as well. Your work capacity in the gym is going to skyrocket. You're going to be able to move more weight, so you're going to have better stability. You're going to have better control through all these ranges of motions. You're going to be able to produce force in opposite directions, and in addition to that, absorb force. So you're not going to have as much aches, pains in terms of like those manual labor and physical activity tasks as well. So being strong in the gym is something you'll see probably a little bit slower, but it's going to have, I would say, probably more of your measurable milestones, right? So let's go through like a few recommendations of like what can you expect in a 6 to 12 month from a new person in terms of strength gains, and then like someone who's more advanced. Like I have my own personal kind of theories on where I need to be in terms of like my annual weightlifting meets. But like let's kind of dive into those.
I mean, like just kidding the advanced bucket off the bat, like the more time you spend in the gym, those gains to be made are going to they're going to be more and more scarce. They're going to be more and more spread out. They're going to take more effort to achieve. Like, to get 5 pounds in your back squat, if you already have 15 years of training under your belt, it might take an entire year to just add 5 pounds, right? Meanwhile, you talk about someone who just learned how to back squat for the first time in 6 months. Now they're doing it with better form, more stability, cleaner range of motion, and maybe like even half their body weight, right? And I'd say it's like pretty common to see someone's strength double in a compound movement over the course of that first 12-month time period.
It's not too far-fetched to say they can go up 200 pounds from when they started to 6 months from now, right? So going back to like the skill of movements,
how quickly you pick it up.
I have a natural good squat pattern. I have a lot of natural strength. Through exposure to the movements, I feel more comfortable, more stable. Like I'm going to take bigger jumps. I'm going to go from an empty bar to I'm going to put 25 pounds each side. So I just did a 50-pound jump in my first week or month, right? And then from there, you go up to 90 pounds. And then after that, you're doing 185 on your back squat. And then I tested 200 6 months to a year down the road. Like that's not unrealistic.
And everyone does have a different starting point, and I think that does dictate, the kind of trajectory you're going to be on. But that does remind me of someone who is new, is coming up on their 1 year here at Mach 1. You know, when she started with us, she had an incredible baseline. Like, she learned how to squat, like was probably in her first session doing over 100 pounds on a back squat. You know, now she's squatting over 200 pounds and she's coming up on her first year. Deadlift also, she probably also could have deadlifted mid to high 100s in her first month in the gym.
Yeah.
But then now we're coming up on a year later, she's pushing closer to 300 pounds.
Over 300.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have someone with a high baseline, their trajectory at first is probably going to be way more parabolic than someone who has a lower baseline. Now, that doesn't mean that the lower baseline person can't achieve what the higher baseline person does. It just means it might take a bit longer.
For sure.
And that's okay. At the end of the day, the consistency in the gym is what's going to get you to those gains. But, you know, relating it back to just strength training overall and the kind of expectations you can get, I'd say on a low end, in your first year, you can probably expect to become 50% stronger. On a high end, you can probably even expect to be 200 to 250% stronger.
I would say that's a realistic target.
Right.
And then going into like our fourth topic of body composition and the aesthetic goals, we started with flexibility because there's pretty limited to no variables. It's either you practice the skill of flexibility or you don't. Then after that, endurance has a little bit more variables. Strength has even more variables. This one has probably the most variables. And that's
Probably.
You know, that's why
Nutrition's a factor.
Exactly. And that's why we formatted it in this way. So like talking about, yeah, here you go. So you can take it. Yeah. Hop on. We're featuring Bill today in this episode.
This is Bill, everybody.
Welcome. Hey, Bill.
He's hitting some skier.
The screen's off? Actually? Just dimming. It's all good.
Right. All good.
You're good. See, we have members looking out for us.
We're still alive.
We're still alive. Bringing it back. You are good. All right. So talking about like weight management and aesthetic
The variables,
goals.
we were getting into the variables to that.
Nutrition, stress, sleep, training program, and the catalyst for which you're creating, you know, muscle mass, you know, like all of these different factors play into it. Hormones, genetics, like there's so many variables, so it's hard to give a timeline. What I would say common practice, what you'll hear is like, you want to aim for like 0.5 pound to 1 pound a week for weight loss for sustainable results. I think that gets you through like a couple weeks, couple months realistically. And then
Probably doesn't get you through a full year though.
Correct.
Like at most,
if you
that
can lose,
gets you 6 months.
Yeah, like,
sustainably,
you know. And there's some people that maybe half of that is realistic, like 20 pounds in a year. Sometimes you can lose that in 3 to 6 months, depending on how many variables are off and that you dial in, right? And what's working in your favor and what's not. So this one's a little more nuanced in the sense of like, what can you expect in 6 to 12 months? I would say when it comes to what your goals are, there's weight loss, there's weight gain in terms, usually muscle, bulking and for like some people. So we can kind of add that other category of body recomposition, right? So all of these have like slightly different timelines. But what I would say is if you are seeing changes on a month-to-month basis across the board, 6 to 12 months is an appropriate window to make a noticeable change.
Absolutely. I'd say like if I had to put like an average sustainable goal on it, like there's going to be months where it's more aggressive and there's going to be months where it's a lot lower, but like if you have weight loss goals, a pound a month on average for an entire year is absolutely realistic. Even 2 pounds a month for an entire year, that's both realistic and sustainable. If you're looking at doing more than that, then that's when you just have to have a plan for the maintenance phase, because you can't be in that deficit forever. And that's where a lot of people falter in their weight loss goals in the first year.
It's not linear. That's the problem.
It's not linear, exactly. So I think that's like a big important understanding overall when it comes to the possible gains you can make or progress you can make in general in that first 6 months to a year. Is it's not linear, but when you chart it over the course of a year, it should be downtrending. If your goal is weight loss, or uptrending if your goal is building more muscle.
Correct.
And those body composition related goals are much more timely, and to me, you should taper your expectations towards reaching your goals on a long-term basis and very seldomly on a short-term basis.
Correct.
Like, look into not just your first year, but your first 5 years, as opposed to, your first 5 months.
Absolutely. And I think, if you can look at, like, just to zoom in for the sake of this conversation, if you can look at the first 6 to 12 months, no matter what the goal is, whether it's weight loss, muscle gain, recomposition, what we want to essentially say in terms of expectations is you want to have some sort of improvement. And I would say if your goal is within a realistic manner, weight loss should be within, I would say, if you have the weight to lose, a 5% change, right? Like, I would say that's very realistic for people. If you're looking to go up in muscle, 5% might even be a little high.
Sure.
Right?
Sure,
so when you're planning, just kind of having realistic goals. Like, if you're trying to lose 20% body fat in a year, like,
that's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic. But 5, that can be attained
absolutely
with the right mindset and training. So, like, just to give people a little bit more of a recap, solidified answer: flexibility, mobility, endurance, strength. You're going to see increased ability to do your ADLs, activities of daily living. You'll be able to get up and down. You'll be able to move and groove. You'll be able to do everything on the day-to-day so much easier in 6 to 12 months. And the numbers are all kind of relative based off your starting point.
Absolutely.
When it comes to metrics for body composition, weight loss, like, I would say 2 to 5% change in either direction is pretty realistic. And then you'll also probably notice some increased capabilities on the day-to-day because you have less weight moving around, or you have more muscle to help with your goals.
Absolutely.
But would you say that makes sense? Quick recap?
I think that makes sense. And I think with that being said, we're coming to the close of this episode, and next episode is Big 25, where we're doing a Q&A. So this would be a good time to maybe drop what your goals are, what your starting point is, and ask us whether or not your goals are realistic. And that would be a great question for our Q&A. But whatever other questions you might have for us, where you're going to be answering any and all questions you send our way, either in the comment section, email, Instagram, Facebook. We're checking it all, and we're going to be answering it all in the next episode of the Mach 1 Method.
Don't ask who Bill is. You don't know him. He's never been here before. Top secret. Doesn't exist.
Men in Black.
All right. With that being said, Mach 1 out.
Boom.